Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is going to be we had one date, she'll be traveling for a month. Should I keep in contact? Well, this particular email is from a guy, he's 34, he's a single dad, got a 2-year-old son. And so he met a woman at a festival he was at with his son. He says he worked up the courage, went over and started chatting her up, got her number. And then a few days later, they had a first date. He says it went well, but he noticed that he kind of had to carry the conversation a little bit. And then also, when he went to kiss her at the end of the night, she was reluctant, but she kissed him back. And so now she's about to go away for a month. She's going to be traveling. And so he's got kind of a date that was kind of mediocre, but he likes her. She's a type. He sent a picture. She's real pretty. So he wants to see her again. He's like, should I keep in touch or what should I do? So it's just one of those kind of special cases things that it's just good to kind of go through these. And because what you're looking for is a girl that's enthusiastic to see you. And after having read this, it just seems like there is a lack of enthusiasm on her part towards him. Plus, they only had one date. So he says, hey, Coach, my name is Bob. I'm a 34-year-old single father in California, also known as California. He's got a son that's 2 years old. I met a gorgeous woman about 2 weeks ago at a festival while my son was there. She obviously got to meet my son, and I mustered up the courage to go talk to her and got her number. Well, if you're a parent and you got a kid with you, women like that. If you got a cute dog, women like that too. So you're having your child or your cute dog with you is a cheat code because that makes you instantly look like you're safe and approachable. Just a little FYI. He says, I mustered up the courage to go talk to her and got her number, and I waited till the next day or so to text her, and after a few messages, we set a definite date for later in the week. I only reached out to her once in the few days leading up to seeing her, and the conversation was brief. I noticed already, though, that she takes quite some time to reply, but is always enthusiastic in her messages, so I do the same in taking my time to respond, but always being pleasant. Well, just keep in mind the phone is for setting dates, not getting to know somebody. And so when you notice a woman is taking a long time to reply, especially if you reply to her and she's waiting until the next day to get back to you, that typically shows her interest isn't super high in you. So probably I would say on an attraction scale 1 to 10, he's probably a 5 in her eyes as far as her enthusiasm level. So it's not real high, and there's not a lot of things. He can't afford to make a lot of mistakes without her just going, and passing on him. But she definitely seems clearly interested enough to go out on a date. So he says the date was about a 7 out of 10. We went mini golfing and had some drinks. We both laughed a lot and had better than average chemistry. I asked her some pretty engaging questions, but didn't turn it into an interview. But I noticed I had to carry the conversation. Yeah, that shows a lack of enthusiasm. And so that tells me that her interest isn't super high. I would rate it at probably a 5 on the attraction scale. So it's pretty low. And so stretching things out and taking your time, not spending a bunch of time chit-chatting on the phone or text would be a good thing in this case, because there's not a lot of mistakes you're going to be able to make with a woman whose interest is this low to start before she blows you off or tells you there's no chemistry or spark or whatever. We touched a little bit, and I could have sworn she called me babe a few times. At the end of the date, I walked her to her car and went for a kiss, and I noticed she held back a little but gave me a smooch on the lips, so that tells me she probably pulled back but then kissed you reluctantly. And told me to text her when I got home, and I did. She responded saying thank you for the date and that she enjoyed herself. So far, so good. I then waited 3 days to reach out to her about setting up The second date. Well, the idea is one date per week. So you meet her, you're texting her within a day or two maybe, and then you're setting a date. And so you should reach out the next week because as the book says, 3% Man says, you're trying to take measured steps. You're trying to go slightly slower than she is. And it seems like it's a little bit rushed for you to get on the second date because obviously he likes the girl. Again, he sent a picture. She's real pretty. So, and she's got nice lips. So, you know, who wouldn't want to be kissing those pretty lips? So I can understand his excitement. And she's obviously his type. But when the interest is low like that, remember, women like you way more if they think they're more into you than you are into them. And if you communicate too much interest, too much enthusiasm, and that she's a big priority in your life when you're barely a blip on her radar, it often might be enough for her to reject you because she can tell you're more into her than she is into you. And women just simply are going to be more attracted to a guy whose feelings are unclear, and especially if they think they like the guy more than the guy likes them. So it's important to have a good poker face and take your time and not be in a rush. He says, I asked her if she was free later in the week, and she said she did enjoy herself and would consider a second date. But she's been packing and already had plans this week with friends before she leaves to go back to her home state of New York for a month. Communist New York. She's escaping back to New York. I'm not sure what day she leaves, so I said, that's fine. Check your schedule and let me know if we can meet before you leave. Have a good night. He says, should I continue to lightly contact her while she's away for an entire month? I'd say absolutely not, because her enthusiasm is not that high. And it almost seems like she's giving you a maybe kind of date. There's just not a lot of enthusiasm. And so the other thing you got to consider is you got to be congruent with your words as a man. What did you tell her to do? You told her to let me know if we can meet before you leave. Have a good night. And so if she doesn't reach out to you, you should assume she doesn't want to see you before she goes. And you know she's going to be gone for a month. And so if she doesn't reach out, then she's not super excited about seeing you again. Plus, she's going to be gone for a month. And plus, you're trying to see if she'll do what you tell her. You said, hey, get in touch if you can make it. It'd be great if we could see each other. So what you notice is if she was super into you, she probably would have accommodated you. But saying, oh, I got plans, there's just a lack of enthusiasm. And so I could tell the mindset of the emailer is, ooh, let me talk to her, and then I'll get her to like me more if I text her while she's away. And when you're seeing this kind of low level of interest, and plus it's only one date, I would just wait. Probably, if you know she's going to be gone for a month, maybe wait a month and a half, maybe even 2 months, 7 weeks, whatever it happens to be, and then reach back out and make one final attempt to make a date, and she'll either make a date or she'll give you excuses. But I just see a general lack of enthusiasm. So her attitude is basically, I could take it or I could leave it. Don't really care one way or another. I had a nice time. Remember, her kiss was reluctant. She's taking time to respond to your text. So I could tell you're really into her. And I mean, notice what he says next. Yes, I'm dating other women, but of course she's the one I really want. And so you got to pay attention to her interest, because what you're doing is you're mostly focused on your interest in her, and you're not really paying attention to the fact that her interest is kind of low. Plus, you're violating some of the principles from the book. You're trying to quickly set a date, literally a day after you met or got her number, and then you're only waiting 3 days. So it sounds like you're trying to make 2 dates in the first week. And so that might also be what's contributing to because you're more enthusiastic about her than she is about you. I mean, look at the fact that she waited all that time to text you back. So that just shows she's not super excited. And so she's basically sitting on the fence going, And so you don't really want somebody that's kind of on the fence about you. You want somebody that would jump fences to be with you. That's like, hell yeah, I'd love to see you again. I had a great time the other night. So, and then the other thing I consider is that she just really wasn't trying very hard to keep a conversation going. Again, that's a sign of low interest. The fact that she was kind of reluctant to kiss you. However, the bottom line is she made a date and she did kiss you. She didn't give the cheek. She has responded to your text. So I would put her interest, if I'm going to rate it from the chapter in the book, it's all in the numbers. I would say her interest, her attraction level is probably a 5. And so you're like barely holding on by your fingernails. So if you don't hear from her, which more than likely just because she's like, oh, I would consider it. So in other words, that's basically you're saying, if I got nothing better to do, I guess maybe I'll go out with you before I leave. That's not exactly excited or enthusiastic. So if I were you, I would say more than likely, just judging from her responses, you probably will not hear from her and she'll just go on this trip. And then I wouldn't do anything. I would just let it be. And if you know she's gone for 30 days, then maybe you wait 6 or 7 weeks, maybe about 40, 45 days to reach back out to her. Because again, her interest is just not that high. And her responses are not excited. However, if your game is tight and you follow what's in the book, over the weeks, over about a 2-month period, you could get her to the point where she's head over heels in love with you. And then she'll be excited to keep the conversation going. She'll be excited to kiss you and make out with you. She'll become more interested in you and your life. But like I said, that's what I would do. I would just wait. I would wait about 40, 45 days to when you're sure she's definitely going to be back in town. And if you haven't heard from her, then text her or call her up, which is calling is more masculine, but it seems like you guys are just texting. So you could just text her and say, I hope you had a great trip in New York. I'd love to see you. When are you free to get together? I'd love to see you and catch up and hear all about your trip. Be direct, be decisive, get right to the point. Don't go, hey, you, how was your trip in New York? And then get in this bullshit conversation. Just be direct and decisive and get to the point. Hey, I hope you had a great time in New York. I'm looking forward to hearing all about it. I'd love to see you. When are you free to get together? Because that's going to communicate that you presuppose and you assume, of course she's going to want to go out with me. And so her response will tell you everything. If she's excited to hear from you and has more enthusiasm than these last few messages, then that sounds great. That means her interest went up a little bit. If she's like, who's this? If she deleted your number, doesn't even remember, it's like, where do I know you? Oh, this is Bob. We met at the festival. Oh. And the bottom line is if she's willing to go out on a second date, it's, you'll know in about 40, 45 days. So that's what I would personally do if I were you. Just again, because her enthusiasm's not there. You only went on one date. Now it'd be different if you'd been on like 3 or 4 dates and you guys had hooked up once. Then, maybe every week and a half, 2 weeks, reach out. Hey, how's your trip going? Send some pics of the cool things that you guys are doing. Just something like that and see if she'll send something back and forth just to let her know you're thinking about her. But in this case, because you went on one date and her attitude was just, it's better to be scarce. Remember, scarcity creates value. Less really is more when it comes to women. So that's what I would do if I were you. Something else I would also do if I were you is in the video description below this video, there are links to join our paid members only content where you get 6 additional video coaching newsletters that are exclusive for paying members only, similar to this one. And you get a weekly study group podcast that we do where we literally go page by page in 3% Man. Plus we have a study group for mastering yourself. We go page by page with me and the girls, some of the guys, and just discuss everything in the books. And sometimes we have other special interviews and special videos, viewer question podcasts, the whole entire ones on there. So if you are looking in the video description, there are links you can join on YouTube, you can join on Spotify. And if you join on our website, understandingrelationships.com, and click the plans tab, you can do a monthly plan or you can do an annual plan. You get a 7-day free trial with either one. And then if you choose the annual plan, you get a 25% discount for choosing the annual plan and paying up front. So go and join our members only content now. And if you got a question or a challenge you'd like to get my help with, go to understandingrelationships.com, click the products tab at the top of your screen on any page of my website, and book a coaching session with yours truly. Until next time, I will talk to you soon.